He taught many, many, many classes, including knitting, embroidery, spinning, dyeing, felting, and a whole host of other things. So he's going to be your teacher for today, and enjoy.
Okay, I guess we should wait a few more minutes until let everyone have a chance to join. So does anyone have any questions about cables, or while we're waiting, we might. Claire, can you see? I can't see the chat, Claire. Can you?
Yes, you need to go down to the bottom of your screen, and you may have to hover, and there'll be a little menu that pops up. And then there's a little speech bubble that says chat.
Oh, if you don't have a cable needle, you can use a double pointed needle. Do you have a double pointed needle handy? With a, so a cable needle, the cable needle I'm using today is this one. It's just like a J shape or like a hook. That's a cable needle. You can also use just a double pointed needle if you don't have a cable needle. Some cable needles look more like this, only they have a kind of like a U or like a bend in the middle where you can rest your stitches on. But I didn't have one available, and I wasn't able to go buy one because the stores are closed. So, but they do have lots of different kinds of cable needles. Yeah, so after this class, I think it's 24 hours after the class, it's going to be available. The recording of it will be available on michaels.com, and she's going to put the link in the chat. You can probably use a pencil as a cable needle. You just need to be able to slide the stitches off either end. And for practice, it's fine. Depending on what size yarn you're using, you don't want the cable needle to be bigger than your regular knitting needle. Otherwise, it can stretch out your stitches. But if you're just practicing, I think it'll be all right for a pencil. So, how soon do you think we should start? Do you think everybody's here, or should we wait?
I think it's just as close to 5 minutes after we can go ahead and get started. Like you said, the recording will be available for anybody who gets in late.
Okay. So just a little information about cables. We'll just look at some cables first. I was going to wear this sweater, but it's very hot, so I didn't wear the sweater. This is basically what we think of when we think of cables. The stitches are, you see these different textures you can create. You have different ways of, and then I have this little sample that I knitted up. This is a real basic cable. It's just 2 stitches over 2 stitches, which is really the easiest one you can learn. And then once you learn that, the secret is that cables are actually very easy. They look very complicated. They look like they're going to be really hard. But actually, once you learn the basic steps, it's really very easy. And that's a secret for the knitters, because when you make something for somebody that is made with cables, they're going to think that it was super hard and you had to work really hard on it, when really it's not that hard and it's not that big of a deal. When I first learned cables, I taught myself how to do it, and I thought that it was going to be really hard and it was going to take a whole lot of extra steps. And so when I was first doing it, I was trying to turn my cable every row because I thought, of course, it was going to be super hard and you'd have to do all that. But the best part about it is the only time you have to do anything new, it's usually about every 4, 5, or 6 rows. So for the most part, when you're knitting cables, you're just doing the basic thing that you've already know how to do. You're just doing knits and purls. And then every so often there's a row where you have to do something that's new. And then once you pass that row, then you get a break again for about 3 or 4 or 5 rows, depending on the pattern. So that's the best part about the cables, is really they're much easier than you think. So today we're gonna learn this basic one. It's just a 2/2 cross, which is really easy. And depending on how much time we have, we'll move to this one, which is kind of like a horseshoe pattern. Kind of bright, I don't know if you can see that. Kind of like a horseshoe pattern. And then we're gonna, if we have time, we'll go to the honeycomb. And if we have time after that. So this is very similar to the honeycomb, but it's supposed to look like X's and O's for hugs and kisses. And all of these cables, even though they all look very different, they're all done by the same technique. We're just gonna take some stitches off of our needle, hold them onto the cable needle for a few minutes, and then we're gonna just switch them and change the order that the stitches are knitted in, and that creates our cable. So I guess 7 minutes after, so let's go ahead and get started. If you want to follow along, if you want to knit along with me, you can cast on 18 stitches. And so I'm working from this pattern here. So if we cast on 18 stitches, we're going to purl 2, knit 6, purl 2, knit 6, purl 2. And so that's going to set us up for that. And then we're going to work on the back of the piece. We're going to just knit our knits and purl our purls. And that's going to bring us to row 3. And then that's when the magic's going to happen with our cable. So while everybody's getting that set up, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to do a cable. And we'll go over that several times. And then we'll see what kind of questions people have from there. Okay, and so you get to see all my teacher's notes and all my scribbles on here. So I've been using this handout for about 5 years. So there you go. So here's my work. And I've got my knits and my purls all worked up. I've worked up to the 3rd row. So I'm gonna just.
Good question, Darren.
Okay.
Do you have a link to this pattern so we can all follow along?
I don't have a link to it.
Okay.
I don't know, what should I do about that now?
Maybe if you just put the pattern in front of you there so it's still on screen.
Okay. Now it would be, will you be able to see that?
Yeah, move it forward a little bit and then we can see that should be fine.
Like right there, sorry about that. It's not really a pattern, it's just like a cable pattern. So it's just like a technique pattern. So, all right, so I've got my 2, I've got my purl 2. And so now the next step in the pattern, what it's telling me to do is, it says 3/3 RC. Now that sounds crazy, right? Because nobody knows what that means. So we're gonna have to figure out what that means. So whenever we do a cable, it's either called a cable cross or a cable twist. And we're crossing a certain number of stitches over another certain number of stitches. So with this one, we're going to be crossing 3 stitches over 3 stitches. And because it has an R, that means right. So we have 3 stitches crossing over 3 stitches, making a right-facing cable. And then I'm going to purl 2. And then the next little bit of craziness we see there says 3/3 LC. And what that means is we're going to have 3 stitches crossing over 3 stitches, making a left-facing cable. And so depending on which way we hold our cable needle will determine if the cable needle face of cable turns to the right or turns to the left. And we're going to see how that looks here in just a second. All right, so you take your cable needle once you work up to that spot, and so you're going to just slip 3 stitches, and you always slip stitches when you're doing cables as if to purl. So you take your cable needle and you enter the 3 stitches as if to purl, so that you're being very careful not to twist them, right? And with this cable needle, I like to then put them on the hook, and then it hangs down like this so it's not in your way. If you're using a double pointed needle or another type of cable needle, then sometimes you can anchor it here, or you can just kind of hold it out of your way, but sometimes they can get in the way and that can be a little tedious. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knit the next 3 stitches, just like everything's normal. We'll just pretend everything's normal. So we'll knit 3 stitches. Oh, wait a minute. I did something wrong because I wasn't paying attention. Okay, so this cable is a 3/3 right cable. And if you want your cable to cross to the right, you have to put your cable needle in the back. If the cable needle is in the back of your work, then your cable is going to always cross to the right. And a little way to remember that is if you say, I'll be right back, meaning if the cable is in the back, it's going to twist to the right. So I'll be right back. You put your cable needle in the back of your work, and then you knit 3 stitches just like normal. Now, one thing sometimes when people do, there's an opportunity to make a few mistakes here, so we're going to be careful. I've had people in my class forget about the cable needle and then just continue knitting. And then they get to the end of the row and they're like, oh, I forgot to do that. So make sure you're not leaving your stitches behind on your cable needle. Okay, one thing. And then make sure also when you knit your stitches from the cable needle that you don't twist them and that you're knitting into knit stitches. I'll get this all twisted in my hand. There we go. So when you knit them from your cable needle, you want to make sure that you look at your cable needle and you see that they're knit stitches, because it's really easy to twist your cable needle and you could be knitting into purl stitches by mistake. So now I'm going to just knit these stitches from my cable needle onto my other working needle, just like normal. Just normal knitting. Nothing too crazy went on. And now we're done with this, so I can lay this down. And continue in my pattern. I have to purl 2. And then when we get here, it says purl 2, then we're going to 3/3 LC. So that's 3 stitches cross over 3 stitches for a left facing cable. So you take your cable needle and you slip, instead of knitting the next stitches, you slip them purlwise. We don't want to twist them. And this one's going to face left, it's going to be a left facing twist. And so you can say, I left the front door open. So if you left it the front, so the cable is going to twist to the front. It's going to twist to the left if you hold it in the front. So before we said, I'll be right back. And now we're going to say, left the front door open. And that'll help us remember that if we hold it in the front, it'll twist to the left. And then we're going to the yarn's in the right place. Knit 3 stitches, just like normal, just normal knitting. Okay. And then I'm going to knit 3 stitches from my cable needle. And before I knit them, I'm going to make sure I'm looking at knit stitches. I'm going to show you here. It's easy sometimes to twist it like that. And now you see that way you're looking at purl stitches and it won't look nice. So before you knit them, just make sure you have it straight and you can see that you're knitting into knit stitches. And then you just knit them. Just pretend you're knitting like normal and you're not knitting with a new type of a needle. Just normal knitting. Okay. And then we're going to purl. The last 2 stitches are purl stitches. Just like normal purl stitches. Now, one thing that's very disappointing when people learn cables and they're first doing it is the first cable twist doesn't look like anything. It looks like you've made horrible mistakes and everything's gone wrong. Cables don't really show or look nice until you get at least the second twist done. And then that's when you're going to start to see some of the really fun magic happening. So if yours looks like you've made a whole bunch of horrible mistakes and everything's gone wrong, it's probably right for now. Okay, do we have any questions? Any questions?
I think probably learning experience for us. We're going to start next class with the homework up in the chat so everybody can get caught up ahead of time. They all have to cast on and you were all ready to go.
Yeah, we can start over though. If what should we do? Do we want to start back over or?
Here, I think I will go ahead and type out the full first 3 rows in the chat again while you rip out and start over, sir.
Okay, so how about if I lay it like this, can you see it? Yeah, this is our first class. Sorry, I didn't realize. When I did the cable crosses though, did everyone understand how that went or were there questions?
I think we're all still trying to catch up here, but
okay.
We'll see. We'll take it on the second go round. I did see we had a couple very beginners in the chat who might have been slightly confused. Yes, for this particular cables class, you do need to know how to both knit and purl and be familiar with those stitches. If you don't know either of those, I am sure that Michaels has some great instructions on their website. We also have some good instructions on lionbrand.com. But for this class, we're not going to cover those techniques.
Okay. I'm going to purl my
All right, Darren, can you tell us which row you're on now?
I'm just starting. I cast it on and I did my purl 2. Now I'm knitting 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Knit 6, 5, 6. Purl 2. Knit 6.
I think if you just move your hands a little bit farther down at the top of the screen. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so that's row 1. And then for row 2, you start out with knit 2. You're just going to knit your knits and purl your purls as you've established. So knit 2, purl 6. Oh, sorry. Knit 2. And then finish with a knit 2. And then that gets us back up to row number 3, where the first cable twist is going to happen. All right, any questions about getting to this point?
Looks like we're all quiet in the chat here. Hopefully everybody's caught up. Oh. I see Darren and I both checking the stitch math. It should be 18.
It could be wrong. Looks like 18. 2, 8, 10, 16, 18, right? Math is not my strong suit, but I did not write this pattern, so.
And of course, we're all surprised at how much math is involved in knitting.
Yeah, nobody told me that, or I would not have gotten involved with the knitting. Okay, so are we ready to try it again? We can try it again. We can rip out. We can do whatever.
All right, let's go through row 3 nice and slowly this time.
Okay, nice and slowly. All right, so we're going to purl. So for people that wanted me to demonstrate how to purl, this is how I do it. There are lots of different ways. When you're purling, you bring your yarn to the front. You kind of dive into the stitch from this direction. So you enter the stitch this direction. Kind of make it into a cross. And then I use my left hand. You can use your left or your right hand, and you wrap it around the needle. And then you kind of push it back through. So you enter the stitch, wrap your needle, and then you're kind of pushing that loop back through. All right, so now that I'm going to reposition my yarn to knit. So you put your yarn in the right position if you were going to knit. And I'm picking up my cable needle. So you can use a pencil or a double-pointed needle, or if you have a cable needle, it might look different than this because there's lots of different kinds. And you're going to slip your stitches onto the cable needle as if to purl, and that prevents you from twisting them. So just as if you're going to purl the stitches, you slip them on to the cable needle. So there, they're on my cable needle. And this cable is twisting to the right. So this is a 3/3 RC is how it's listed in a pattern. And if we want it to twist to the right, we have to hold our cable needle in the back of our work. And then the little memory crutch to help us remember is I'll be right back. So if it's in the back of your work, then it will twist to the right. Okay, so now I'm going to knit 3 stitches, and this is just normal knitting. Pretend there's nothing special happening here. Okay, so I just knitted 3 stitches. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cable needle, and then you just knit your stitches right off of that cable needle. Get your yarn in the right position. Hold on one second, sorry. Okay, so now I've got my cable needle and my wooden needle that I'm using, and you knit them right off of your cable needle. You can lay this down. Get everything in the right position. Now we're going to purl 2. So bring your yarn back to the front for purling. Enter the stitch. So enter the stitch this direction, and then wrap your yarn. And then you're kind of pushing it back through. And I'll demonstrate it with my right hand for people that do it that way. So you enter your stitch, you take your yarn, you wrap your yarn around your needle, and then you kind of push it back through. And then now I'm ready for my next cable cross, which is 3/3. Refer to our pattern. It's 3/3 LC. So we're right here. 3/3 LC. And so we're going to pick our cable needle back up. And go ahead and put my yarn in the back because I'm done purling. And then you're just going to slip the next 3 stitches as if to purl onto your cable needle. Now this cable is going to twist to the left. So we're going to hold our cable needle in the front. So if we want it to twist to the right, we'll put it in the back. But if we want it to twist to the front or to the left, we hold it in the front. And then the little memory crutch for that one is I left the front door open. So we're going to knit 3 stitches just like normal, just normal knitting. And then I'm going to knit 3 stitches off of my cable needle. And this is just normal knitting too. You're just knitting off of a different needle. Sorry. Okay, so I just knit them right off of that needle. And now I'm going to purl. My yarn's already in the front, so I'm set up to purl my last 2 stitches. And then if it looks like a bunch of horrible things went wrong and it's just kind of a twisted mess, then you've probably done it right. Because the first row of a cable never looks very good. You have to get a couple cable twists in, at least one more twist before it looks right. All right. Yeah, so the cable work is being done with the 6 knitted stitches that are in the row. And frequently when you do have cables, you have knitted cables, and then beside the cables, maybe we can go back to the right facing camera, to the facing one. So in this sweater, so we have these cables here, but what distinguishes the cables, you usually have rows of purls that are in between the cables. So if you don't have any rows of purls in between your cables, then they tend to all kind of fit together, and it creates a different look. Like this honeycomb look does not have any purls in between it, and that's what creates the honeycomb. But like this one that I'm working on here, what really defines the cables is the rows of purls that are in between. So usually, whenever you're working on cables, there'll be like rows of purls in between to give you that definition. It doesn't always have to be. Sometimes there's not. There's many different ways of doing cables, different looks. If you have just stockinette stitch and there are no rows of purls to distinguish your cables, that's called a blind cable, and you can just kind of see these random twists going through it. It looks really nice. It's just a complete different look. And with cabling, you can get all kinds of different looks. And that's the amazing thing. Just with the 2 little techniques that I showed you about holding your cable needle to the front or holding it to the back, that's what creates the way the cable needles or your cable is going to twist. And that will determine how your cables look when they're twisting. So I think the best practice to start would be to just find a pattern where you're just using like a 2/2 or a 3/3 cable cross. You could make a scarf, maybe a simple hat, and start with that, and then just keep practicing until you feel a little bit more confident about how to keep track of where you are. So I see somebody has a question that says, can we cable without a cable needle? And the answer is yes. There are techniques to cable without a cable needle. I've never really done that. I know that it is a very popular technique for people, but part of the problem with me is if I learn something, I just really enjoy it. I don't really want to learn how to do it without the cable needle because I really just feel like the cable needle is my friend. But the answer is yes, you absolutely can do it without a cable needle, but I wouldn't try that for my first day. So how are we doing? Are we ready to keep going?
I think we better have a look ahead at the next few rows of the pattern so everybody knows where we're going and give people a chance to get caught up too.
Okay, so the next couple of rows, basically what we're going to do, I want to show you one little trick. I love a stitch marker, and sometimes it's hard when you're learning, especially, it's hard to remember maybe what row you're on, maybe, if you're going to be, you do your cable cross and then you have to knit a couple of rows and then you're going to do the next cross. It's kind of hard to keep track. So one thing that you can do while you're learning is if you put a stitch marker on your work, that's the row we crossed our cable on. So if you have to lay this down and come back later, then that'll give you a way to kind of figure out where you crossed your cable. Because sometimes it's not quite as easy to tell as you think it should be. And if you twist your cables on the wrong rows, then sometimes that can make them look a little funny. So we're going to move on to row 4. And row 4 is just like normal knitting. We're back. We're not doing anything special. We're going to It just says to knit the knits and purl the purls as they have been established. And so that's all we're ever going to do on the wrong side. So basically, it's the same as row 2. We're just going to knit 2, purl 6, knit 2, purl 6, knit 2. But we're just knitting our knits and purling our purls as established.
And if you keep that up there, Darren, I'll try to type that in the chat as well. Tiana had a good question. What are the pros and cons to the different types of cable needles, if you have experience with that?
You know, some people really just like certain kinds. It's kind of like, do people like wooden needles or plastic needles or metal needles better? People tend to have really strong opinions about that. I really like this J-shaped one because it stays out of your way. When your stitches are resting on that, you can kind of let it hang down out of the way, and it doesn't tend to bother as much. If you have a cable needle that's like a double pointed needle, then, and maybe I'll do my next turn with a double pointed needle and I'll show you how sometimes that gets in the way. There's also a little, really short little cable needle that's only about like 2 or 3 inches long. And some people really like that one because that one stays out of the way. So it's really just kind of a personal preference. Like, what's better, double pointed needles or magic loop? I mean, people have very strong opinions.
And I can't remember if you mentioned, what should the size of your cable needle, does that have any impact on it?
Yeah, the cable needle should be either the same size as your knitting needle or smaller. You don't want it to be larger or else it'll stretch out your stitches. So I have this J-shaped cable needle. It's very thick, and I wouldn't want to use that when I'm knitting on this size needle because my stitches, it's going to distort the shape of my stitches. So then what you want to do is the cable needle can be much smaller. It can be very thin, just as long as it's big enough to hold your stitches, but you don't want it bigger than the needle that you're knitting with. So this would be a bad decision. So this one's a little smaller, but it's not going to stretch out my stitches. The cable needle does not shape your stitches. It just holds them until you're ready to use them. They're just resting there. They're not being shaped there. I'm going to go ahead and work up my next 2 rows. So I'm working on the back side of my work now. And we're not doing anything special. This is why cables are actually not quite so hard, because the learning is, you really only have a lot of things to extra learn on just the rows where you have your cable twist. And you only have a cable twist, depending on your pattern, every like 2, 3, 4, or 6 rows. It might not be very often at all. Any other questions while we're getting caught up?
I think we're doing okay. Sharon has a question on a tool. She doesn't know what it is. I'm trying to figure out how we can see that to tell her.
What is the tool, I wonder? So really the only other tool that I'm using is the cable needles. So I have these 2 cable needles, and then we could use a double pointed needle as a cable needle, or is that the tool? So I'm getting ready to start row 5, which is just purl 2, knit 6, purl 2, knit 6, purl 2. Oh. So is anybody able to try doing the cable twist in row 3? Was anyone running into any troubles with that? Was anyone successful?
Sharon also wants to know, if you get off in the pattern, how will that affect your cable? So say if you got, off horizontally by 1 stitch, or maybe if you forgot to do your cable on a row.
It is going to make a big difference. If you forget to do your cable on a row, then it's going to show up. Or if you twist it in the wrong direction, it's also going to show. It's not going to look right. And if your stitch count is off, then it's one of those things where you really do have to be careful and make sure you're kind of keeping it exactly right. But sometimes if you twist it the wrong way, or if you forget to do a twist, it's going to show, but if you're making a scarf or a hat, then later on people don't know what pattern you used, and they're not going to necessarily know you made a mistake. Depends on how it looks and then how you feel about it. But it is, if you want it to look exactly right, then you do have to be very careful. So I'm working back. But that's one reason why I put the stitch marker where I turned my cable, because then I can kind of keep track of where I am. That's a really great opportunity to make a mistake. So if we can try to avoid that, then that will be best. Okay, so now I'm ready to do my next cable twist, and I can wait until everyone's caught up. So you can see, just because I knitted a couple more rows, you can kind of see here that it almost looks like a cable twist is happening right there. So the first couple of rows when you're doing a cable really don't look very impressive. They look actually like it's gone horribly wrong. So by the time you do your second twist, things will start to look better.
I've got a question on what row 6 is, which I believe is one of our even numbered wrong side rows.
Yeah, so sometimes in a pattern, the first time we're doing an even number wrong side row, it writes it out for us. And then on row 4, it just tells us to knit the knits and purl the purls. And then it's not going to tell us any more about that. It's not going to tell us any more what to do with the wrong side rows. It just wants us to knit the knits and purl the purls as they've been established. So always on the wrong side, nothing exciting is happening. It's just normal, just kind of knitting and purling on the wrong side. So when I was practicing and making up this swatch, you can see I put a stitch marker on every row because I knew people would have questions about how do you keep track of what row you're on, because sometimes it's very complicated. And so I put a stitch marker where I turned, and then I put one on every row. And then if you're a beginner and you're having a hard time learning how to count your rows, then you can just count these stitch markers. So what you can do is you can kind of count your rows and practice, like, oh, I'm going to see if I know how to do it. And then you can count your stitch markers to make sure you're doing it correctly. So that's a way to kind of help keep track of what row you're on and when you'll do your next twist. And it'll also help teach you how to count your rows if that's something new that you're learning. So this one, so sometimes on a cable, it kind of makes these little kind of channels. And that's normal because we're twisting our yarn. And so if you kind of put your cable needle through there, you can see how that kind of lines up with this first stitch marker, right? And so that way, this is where we turned our work. This is the stitch marker that indicates that. And so then we can count each one of these until we get up to this next cable turn. And then we know we're ready to do the next one. And then once you feel comfortable, then you don't have to put a stitch marker every time. So I didn't do it for the rest of it because I felt comfortable, but just for learning, sometimes when you're learning, you want to take a couple of extra steps to make sure you kind of keep track of where you are. Because if you get up to here and you're like, I don't know, I lost track, is this the right row? Then you might get really frustrated and you don't want to give up and be frustrated. So that's a good way to help keep track so you don't turn your cable on the wrong row. Okay, are we ready to turn the next row? So we're on row . Any other questions? Everybody kind of caught up?
I think everybody's working away on their little swatches. I know I am.
Okay.
Yeah, since we've got just over 10 minutes of class left, I think, we'll probably have you demonstrate the cable turn at least a couple more times.
So demonstrate the cable turn at least one more time then. And if anybody has any questions, now's the time. And so it is, I mean, when you're learning how to do cables, it is there is learning involved. So it is something that you're going to have to be patient with yourself. You're going to have to be willing to make mistakes and do it wrong and be kind of frustrated. But once you give yourself the time to learn it and to practice, it doesn't take that long to learn. And once you learn it, it's actually not quite so hard as it looks. So whenever we're learning something new, especially as adults, we feel like we should be able to pick up things immediately and learn things right away. But I mean, learning does take time. It's a process, and we have to practice and be patient with ourselves. And there's a reason why people aren't knitting cable knit sweaters and selling them on Etsy for $20, because it is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, but that doesn't mean that it's too difficult for us to learn or to do. So just be patient with ourselves and any other questions in the last few minutes? I'm almost ready to turn my cable. Is everyone caught up? Did we have any successful cables being turned yet?
I think I saw at least a couple people say they had some good cable turns. I just wanted to remind people that, this recording will be available tomorrow, and you can watch it again and again and again and go at your own pace.
And on linebrand.com, there's also videos about cabling, right, Claire?
There are. We have just recently redesigned our website, so we're still in the process of adding some things, but those will all be available.
Yeah. And the yarn that I'm using today is from Lion Brand. It's called Pound of Love. And this is available at Lion Brand and on Michaels. And there's lots and lots of really great colors. If you wanted to use this, it's a good yarn to use for cables because it's very smooth. It's easy to see what you're doing. When you're making cables, you don't want a yarn that has a lot of texture or a yarn that is very fluffy or too overly fuzzy. You won't really see your cable as much. Okay. Okay, so we're ready. I'm going to demonstrate the next cable cross. So on this row, we're going to purl 2. And then that brings me right up to my 3/3. Where are we here? 3/3 RC. So that means 3 stitches will twist over 3 stitches, making a right facing cable, right? And so instead of using these two, either one of that kind of a style, I'm going to use a double pointed needle and show you another way to do it. So always slip as if to purl. So you just slip 3 stitches onto your cable needle or to your double pointed needle. Now this one is going to twist to the right. So we're going to put this cable needle in the back. And so this is sometimes why I like the J-shaped one better, because it's kind of unwieldy sometimes to use such a big needle, but other people really like that. So it's really a personal preference. And so now I've got my 3 stitches held in the back, and I'm going to knit the next 3 from my left hand needle just like normal. Just like normal. Okay. And then I'm going to let my left hand needle rest. And then I'm going to take this cable needle and I'm going to knit 3 stitches. The 3 stitches that are resting on my cable needle, I'm going to knit those. So is that pretty clear to see? So I'm just going to, and this is just like normal knitting. You can just pretend that you're not knitting from a 3rd needle. You're just knitting, just making normal knit stitches. All right, so now I've knitted 3 stitches from my cable needle. I can lay that down. And I'm going to purl 2. So you bring your yarn in the front to purl. Don't let your tail get twisted up here. I'm going to put my yarn in the back because I'm going to be knitting. So I'm getting it set up for knitting. Now this one is 3/3, and it's going to be in the front. So this one's going to twist to the left. I left the front door open, so we're going to slip them as if to purl so we don't twist our stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we're just going to hold that in the front. And then we're going to knit. See, this needle, it kind of gets in my way, so that's why I don't love this method as much. But it's not a bad idea to try all the different kind of cable needles available. So now I'm just knitting 3 stitches from my left hand needle, just like normal. So I'm going to split my yarn. So that's just normal knitting. And you don't want to let this slip off. You want to be careful not to let that slip. And now here's my cable needle. So these are the stitches on my cable needle. And you want to make sure when you're knitting these that you don't let your cable needle twist. Sometimes it's easy to twist it. So just take 1 second and make sure we're looking into knit stitches because we're going to be knitting them. So you're knitting from the cable needle. So 1, 2, 3. And now we're done with the cable needle for a couple of more rows. So we can put that down. We don't have to worry about it. We can relax. Our cabling is done for a while. And I'm just going to purl the last 2. And so now you can kind of see here, it looks, you can see the cable twists are starting to take shape. You can see this one, it twists under that one, and this one comes from under, and then it twists over. So again, it doesn't look quite so exciting until you get a couple of twists done. So by the time you get the next twist done, you're going to see this one and this one kind of crossing over again. And that's why you don't want to get discouraged, and you want to kind of keep going and see the progress, see how it kind of unfolds. Right? So did that?
All right. I think if you whip through a couple more plain rows, and then maybe we can squeeze in one more demonstration.
Quickly. So any questions at all about cables? Any I can maybe answer while I'm knitting through these quickly?
Maybe wanted to know if you get used to having that third needle or that cable needle sort of hanging around.
Yeah, you really do. It doesn't, it's kind of like learning to knit. When you first learn to knit, it's really hard to hold 2 needles and yarn in your hand and manipulate it all at once. And if you know how to knit with double pointed needles, knitting with 3 needles at once or 4 needles at once is really very hard. But with practice, you do get, it does become second nature, and it just kind of like falls into place right in your hand. So it's not so hard once you practice, but that's kind of where the learning takes place. Like you can intellectually understand how to do the cables, and once you're doing them physically, you might be doing them correctly, but it might feel uncomfortable in your hand. But then after you practice and your hands kind of learn what they're supposed to be doing, that's, you know, then it will become much, much easier.
Oh, Cynthia wants to know, can you use circular needles instead of double point?
You certainly could, but usually they're probably so long that they might end up getting kind of really hard to like hold in your hand with everything else, but you certainly could if you didn't have anything else and that's all you had. Or if you had some of the really short ones like the 9-inch ones or the 8-inch ones, that might not, or like what are those new Addi Flex ones? They might be nice too to use.
Yeah, I mean, you can use like their instead a pencil. I've used, I think I've used like a makeup brush once when I didn't have a cable needle. So you just
I
use
used a
something that's
chopstick
going to
before.
hold. There you go.
Yeah, that's kind of the good thing about knitting is you can kind of just wing it. Like if you don't have what you need, sometimes you can just, you know, make something work.
And I think Dee was interested to know what yarn you used on your cream colored sweater there.
This one that's on the background is made out of, it's a discontinued yarn. I made this sweater a long time ago. It's alpine wool from Lion Brand. It's a single ply pencil roving style yarn, and it's 100% wool. There are other yarns on the market that are very similar. I know for Lion Brand, we have Pure Wool, which is available on the webpage. It's thinner, but it would give a very similar look. And also the 50/50, which is available on Lion Brand's webpage, is a single ply kind of a pencil roving. And it's much thicker, but that one, and that's what I used for this. And so it would give you a very similar look, but it would be much, much thicker.
What about the sweater you held up at the beginning of class?
Oh, that sweater is something that I bought. That one is, I did not make that one. That one is made in Ireland. So it is wool, it's merino wool, but I can't. I know Lion Brand, one of my favorite yarns is Lion Brand Superwash Merino. And I absolutely love that yarn. So it would give a similar look to that. But this one, the yarn is much thinner. So it might even be, it's thicker than sock weight, but I think it's a little thin. It's more of a sport weight, I think. But it might be DK. A DK might work. But yeah, this one is, I did not make it. It's made by these people.
Cheater, cheater.
Cheater, yeah. I bought that in a thrift store for like $15. How can you walk away from that? I mean, you can't.
I think we're just after 5 o'clock here on the East Coast, but if we've got time for one more quick demonstration, I think everybody's probably like that.
So this one, I didn't finish all my rows, so I'm really only on row 6. So this one might be a way to show like maybe how bad does it look if you don't turn it on the right row. But just for the sake of timing, I'm going to use this one because I like it better. So I did mine 2 pearls. I'm going to slip my 3. So I'm just slipping 3 stitches on to my cable needle. And this one's going to turn to the right. So we're going to put it in the back. I'll be right back. And then we're going to just knit like normal the next 3 stitches off of our left hand needle. So just like normal, just normal knitting. Okay, so I just knitted 3 stitches. And then now I'm going to knit the stitches. Oopsie. So I'm going to knit the stitches from my cable needle. So get this one out of the way. Position my yarn for knitting. Okay, so just like normal knitting now. We're just going to pretend that we're just knitting like normal. Lay my cable needle down. And I'm going to purl 2. So if you want to practice cables, you don't need to follow the same pattern. So that's the best part about a technique class. Once you learn the technique, like if you just go onto YouTube or just Google any basic cable pattern, you can follow that just by knowing how to hold your cable needle in the front or the back. It's going to make it something that you can totally do. So with a technique class, you can learn the technique and then apply that to any kind of project you want to make. So I just put my 3 stitches on my cable needle, and this one's going to twist to the left. So I'm going to hold it in the front, and we can say I left the front door open, so we remember. And then now I'm just knitting the stitches from my left hand needle just like normal. Nothing exciting, nothing to see here. And then make sure I don't let my purl stitches drop off. And so now I'm just going to knit. It's basically just like normal knitting, nothing too exciting. I'm just knitting from a different needle now. So just knit my 3 stitches from here. Okay, so I need to reposition my yarn to be ready to purl. So put my, oh, that wasn't the right position, so keep it in the front. And then I'm going to purl the last 2 stitches. And so you can see I twisted that one a little sooner. I twisted it 2 rows sooner. And you can see that this is kind of a slower twist, and then it twists much faster here. I'm not sure how well you can see that on. But you can, it does show, it does make a difference. So if you did that by mistake on a project, then you would have to decide, is that something I can live with? You know, do I want to take it out? Sometimes taking things out is harder than living with them, so you can make that decision. So. Any other last minute questions? We're about 7 minutes after. Sorry, I went over. Anything else for the last? Nothing else?
Sophia says, wow, that seems so simple. And yes, it actually is when you get the hang of it.
Once you understand it, it is really very simple. And that's what we have to kind of convince ourselves is don't get caught up in how complicated it seems when you're first learning. It's really, you know, once you turn, and don't be afraid to practice, make a couple swatches. Maybe they're going to look crazy. Maybe they're not going to be right. Maybe you're going to do it all wrong. But that's all part of learning. And before you know it, you'll be able to whip out a bunch of cables and it'll be very impressive and you'll be really proud of yourself. But you know, don't be afraid to practice and make mistakes and learn from those. And you know, there's always, you can rewatch this video. There's other great videos online you can find. You can search on YouTube for introduction to cables. So anything else?
One more time, what was your little mnemonic for the cables, or how you remember them?
So if you want to, if you're going to have a right facing cable, you say, I'll be right back. And that means you hold your cable needle in the back. If you hold your cable needle in the back, it's going to twist to the right. And for the front, if you say, I left the front door open, so if you bring your needle to the front while you're cabling, then it'll twist to the left. So I left the front door open means it's going to twist. If you hold it in the front, it'll twist to the left. And I'll be right back. Holding it in the back will make it twist to the right. And that's really the two things you have to remember when you're cabling. It's very important if you hold them to the front or to the back. And you don't always have to switch it. Like in this little hat that I'm making, these are all twisted the same direction. And you know, you don't have to change the direction. So these are all twisted in the same direction. You can make one project where you twist them all to the left, make one where you twist them all to the right, and then you could make one where you alternate them if you want. But the reason we alternated them here, the main reason is just so that we can demonstrate how they look when they're different. So you can see this one is twisting this direction, and this one is twisting to the right. This one's leaning to the left, this one's leaning to the right. Okay, anything else? So I guess that's all. This class, I hope it was helpful. I'm sorry I didn't have the pattern uploaded for homework. The next class, I will make sure we do that. So we're all learning and making mistakes and doing it better next time. So thanks for watching the class. And I hope if you have questions, you can rewatch it and figure them out. So
And next week, if you want to join us on June 30th, Darren is going to be teaching fixing mistakes. So I saw some people asking about picking up drop stitches and things. That might be the class for you.
Yeah, so in that class, we're going to learn how to pick up drop stitches, fix twisted stitches. There's lots of fun things that once you learn how to do that, you're in charge of your knitting instead of your knitting being in charge. So that's helpful. Is that? I guess that's all then. Thanks everyone. Keep practicing.